Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It's Indy time. Every couple of weeks we go racing for Aussie Online Gaming's Fixed Indy Australia Season 2 here in 2024. The 7th round of the championship takes us to Germany at the Hockenheimring. A truly modern venue in every sense of the word, and a track that these cars have never visited in the real world and likely never will. So this will be interesting to see how a field of some of Australia's best IndyCar drivers will be able to tackle it. Hope you can join us for what's sure to be a great night of racing here on SimSpeed TV, bringing it all to you live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch and Kick. It's me, Reese Gardner. This time we've got Dean Hunt in the comms box with me. Brady Baldwin, currently unwell. Get well soon, Brady. But Dean, I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be another exciting round at a road course.
Yeah, Reese, I've been watching along a few of the events so far this season, and I can tell you that the racing has been absolutely prime. And coming down to Hockenheimring, this track is one of my favourites, and we were discussing earlier how many overtaking opportunities there are here, so I think we're in for a good one.
Yeah, we indeed are. Zoom on into the town of Hockenheim. This circuit has been around since the 1930s and has been through many layout changes. You see going off to the top right of the screen the old route of the circuit that used to be a blast through the forest, but now it's been chopped. It has been molded into a modern venue, and there's plenty of twists and turns around this place, but plenty of long straights too. We're looking for the turn 6 hairpin to be the prime overtaking opportunity along with turn 2. But I think we're going to be seeing some big moves being made coming into the stadium section at the end of the lap as well. Mobile 1 headed into the Sachs curve. The hairpin in the stadium section is sure to be a hot spot.
Yeah, Sachs is one of those corners where you got the camber to really help your car get around, and you can sort of stick it around the outside if you can get on the inside at turn 11 for Mobile 1. Obviously, these cars using the push to pass in this event, you know, when you're on the Parabolica straight, I think you don't get the full push to pass all the way down the straight, so you're going to have to be a little bit strategic with how you're using that if you want to be setting up a overtake at the Spitzke hairpin at turn 6, which is probably the best spot, I think, to get a move done.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, drivers will be dealing with push to pass in the race. They get 10 attempts for a maximum of 20 seconds at a time, usually using it out of turn 2, and that's pretty much the only place we see it. The drivers are in the middle of qualifying at the moment, and we're getting ready for a 45-lap race around the Hockenheimring, where drivers need to use both the prime and alternate tyre compounds. This is how things stand in the championship coming into this round. A drop round has been applied, and Daniel Edmonds leads the championship by a single point over Thomas Hinz. They are incidentally also currently the top 2 in qualifying, so looking forward to seeing how that battle works out.
Yeah, I can't wait to see those two at turn 1. Who's going to be polite and who's going to be more keen? It's going to be a tough one. Obviously, 1 point margin. Anything can go wrong for each driver if they don't get a good finish, and it's going to bite them later if the drop rounds are in play even still. I think it's going to be a close one, especially with the two boys at the top like that. There's about 3/10 between them at the moment, so perhaps Edmonds can narrow the gap a little bit. But yeah, at the moment, Hinz is looking pretty quick.
Yeah, Thomas Hinz currently on top by 0.3 of a second. 121.5 is the pace setting time as Hinzy brings it into the pits. He's going to get some fresh tyres on that machine and go out for one more run. Harry Lawrence, meanwhile, out there on circuit. Harry is one of the drivers that has shown great pace at the road course rounds. Luck hasn't always fallen his way, though. Hopefully, from third place, he'll be able to have a good run at Hinz and Edmonds, but remains to be seen. Still got 4.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, plenty of time to get some more laps in, and that's the thing with these Indy cars is you've got to be good at ovals and the road courses. We said a lot in the US in the real life that some drivers struggle on one and are better on the other. I think if you look at Scott McLaughlin, for example, he's fantastic on the road courses, but might not be as good on the ovals. But you know what? I think these guys are all very talented drivers, and you're not limited by time in the sims, so definitely can get plenty of practice in to make sure that you can get the track down pat. And Hockenheim's one of those tracks that I think a lot of people really like. Doesn't get a lot of love in the officials, it feels like, but a lot of leagues use it. So I think these guys have had plenty of practice around this track, so shouldn't be any room for error there. And Lawrence has just closed the gap on Hinz by 4/400ths of a second, so that's fantastic to see. There's a massive pile-up on the exit of turn 1 there, Reese.
Yeah, that's not good. Who's that damaged? Mark Cochran on the exit of pit lane. Edmonds, of course, needing to respond to that run from Harry Lawrence that we saw live. It looks to me like Cochran made a mistake at the first corner and was followed in tandem by Peter Baxter. So that's a very odd crash that we've seen happen at the first turn there. Well, it looks like a request to tow has been granted, at least for Baxter. We'll get a replay of that as we see him come in and get over the curb, very unstable. And you'll see him come onto the scene now. Peter Baxter having done exactly the same thing, just catching the curb at turn 1 and going for a big slide. Of course, the no escape rule is active, so the drivers in question either had to make their way back to the pits under their own power or request a tow from race control, whereupon they will not be able to take further part in the session. So, yeah, that's obviously something that the... It's a little bit of a dip in the session for those two drivers, but at least it happened near towards the end. It would have been a disaster if it happened right at the start.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, the pit crews will be hypothetically working hard to get that car ready for racing, but it's pretty easy to do on the exit of turn 1 there. Even on the apex, there's that huge sausage curb, and then once you get on the outside, it does get really rough over the curb. So it'll be interesting to watch that as the race gets underway with the cars going 2 or 3 wide through there. That's going to be a little bit hairy, but just having a look at the timing tower, the top 3 only separated by 1/10 of a second. Half a tenth even for the top 3, and P4 only a tenth behind as well. So that's a really tight top 4, and I think obviously qualifying is important. It's a pretty long race. I think the guys that can't continue the qualifying aren't going to be too worried. But yeah, obviously at the front of the field, I think every minuscule part of a second you can get is always going to be an advantage when at the race start and keep yourself out of trouble.
Indeed, we saw Atsushi Osafune there improve one position up to 14th place. Dwayne Burns currently in the top 10, but trying his best to improve. What Dwayne needs is only 300ths of a second or so, and he'll be able to bump Ryan Jones back to 10th place, but it remains to be seen if he can do it. Into the stadium section where the track narrows so much, barely 2 cars wide at this point, and Burns dealing with a bit of rear-end instability there coming into the hairpin. There's nothing you can do about that. This is fixed Indy Australia, so the setups are fixed. Seeing improvements, meanwhile, for Dylan Walker, managing to vault his way up to 5th spot. As Dwayne Burns managed to improve here, only by a little bit, but it's enough to put him back into the top 10.
Yeah, I think that's a good lap from him. I mean, it's a good way to finish, is bumping yourself up, even if it's only by 1 position. You're going to build a little bit more confidence going into the race. He's changed what side of the track he's on for the start as well. He'll be on the grippier side in P10. So I think, it's just 1 position, but it can make a huge difference. He might be on the outside now as opposed to the inside. But still, as we see someone going off there at that Mercedes corner, and Brody's gone off as well, and another car. Is there a bit of oil on the track there, Reese?
Yeah, Robert Baxter and Dylan Walker all going for a bit of an adventure in the grass there. Well, Walker, having just done a lap there, probably had cooked his tyres, so we'll have to get back to the pits there. There's no time left for another lap, though. The checkered flag is out. We wait and see if there are any improvements from anyone here in overtime. Tyson Broad is one of the drivers on a hot lap right now. Probably going to be facing some traffic there. I think that's one of the DPR cars ahead of him. Hopefully he won't catch them before he gets to the start-finish line, and he can maximize his pace here. Broad, Chris Ireland, Dwayne Burns, Ryan Jones, Greg Patrick, and Atsushi Osafune are currently out on track at the moment. Can Broad improve from 8th spot? He needs half a tenth to get up to 7th place, and a 122.1 is going to do exactly that, up into 7th place right at the end of the session. Ireland, meanwhile, the DPR car behind him, is going to make his way into the pits. Same for Michael O'Brien. Another great qualifying performance from Michael, up to P4. Greg Patrick will not improve, and neither will Atsushi Osafune. So that's going to end qualifying here for Fixed Indy Australia Round 7. And what a grid this is going to be. Less cars than we've seen at previous rounds. 16 of them set times in the qualifying session. Mark Cochran was unable to get a lap in. But yeah, I think considering the close gaps that we're seeing, Dean, this is going to be a good race.
Yeah, well, you know what they say, quality over quantity, Reese, and I think some of these we were saying before the broadcast started, there's some big names in here. Obviously, Tyson Broad's made a few waves elsewhere. Rob Baxter as well, I think. Sorry, I might be mixing him up with Pete Baxter. Sorry, Pete Baxter doing a lot outside of the racing world, in the commentary world more so. But I'll let you take the grid from here, Reese.
All right, Thomas Hins and Harry Lawrence are going to be your front row, only separated by 0.04 of a second. You only need to go back another 100th to find Daniel Edmonds, current championship leader by 1 point over Hins, starting alongside Michael O'Brien. Dylan Walker and Reese Margetts will start on the 3rd row of the grid. Very strong top 6 right there. And then we get to Tyson Broad and Chris Ireland, 2 drivers that have plenty of pace in the IndyCar. Brody Shepherd is going to start in 9th spot, and Dwayne Burns getting back into the top 10 late on into the session. 8/10 covering our top 10, Dean.
That's a fantastic helmet for Brody there. And then we've got the P11. We've got Ryan Jones from DPR, Pete Baxter, P12 from CX2 Racing, Greg Patrick from Full Send, and Atsushi Osafune for P14. So I think that one more row. Dean Jacobson, great name by the way, P15, great helmet too actually. And Robbie Baxter in P16, 4.9 off the pace. I'm sure he couldn't quite get a lap in. I'm sure he'll be sticking to the end of the pack and maybe making a few moves as the race goes on.
Yeah, I think the same for Mark Cochran as well, who's starting 17th and last. He was the only driver to not set a time in qualifying. Jay Stern was present in practice, but was about 6 seconds off the pace, and he did not take part in qualifying. So now we wait for the field to move away behind the iRacing safety car. And we can see that there's a few drivers who've decided to start the race on the alternate compound. Ireland, looks like Jones, and also Greg Patrick. Mark Cochran also on the red soft tyre compound, which you have to use at some point in the race. Now that tells me they're probably going to switch to the hards in the mid phase of the race. Potentially 2 pit stops required. So we shall see how everyone plays out here. The top drivers have all decided to go for the harder compound.
Yeah, that's interesting to see, because normally you want to sort of stay out longer when you're behind, but perhaps these guys are believing in their own pace and think they can get some track position, perhaps banking on a safety car by the time they need to pit. It's definitely one of the best things about these Indy cars is the fact that you've got to switch the tyres at some point during the race. Like you said, Reece, possibly even 2 stops for some of the guys. It's all about the management of pace and tyres, and actually just staying alive, I think, in this race is going to be even more important.
Yeah, keeping yourself in the right position is the name of the game here. Let's see what kind of a start we'll get here at the Hockenheimring. It's a short run to turn 1, but it's a very fast corner, and you've got to be careful not to get over the curb too hard. Let's see then. Thomas Hinds putting the power down as the green flag flies for round 7 of Fixed Indy Australia. And Hinds will lead into turn 1. Harry Lawrence trying to keep Daniel Edmonds at bay as the field has mostly made their way cleanly through turn 1, but Dean Jacobson spinning on the exit. Aside from that, looks like everyone's made their way through the first couple of turns without much incident. Thomas Hinds hasn't gotten much of a jump over Harry Lawrence. He did accelerate early, but has run through turns 2 and 3, not quite up to par as Greg Patrick has had an incident, and Harry Lawrence trying around the outside of the hairpin for the lead. It's unsuccessful. Thomas Hinds will stay in the lead for the time being, but we've got a heck of a race on our hands already.
Yeah, Lawrence is really trying to get around the outside there. That's not the way, really the easiest way to do it, as we see Greg Park there at the Marshall post. I think they should be able to get the tow truck out and get him out of the way pretty quickly. But Lawrence trying to get around the outside there, but he's all over the spoiler of Hinds, and Edmonds not far behind as well. Obviously, you've got to be careful of the dirty air with these cars as well, and the tyre life when you're following. But we saw in quali, these 3 guys are really close on pace, and I think we're going to continue to see that through the whole race.
Yeah, I think so too. I noticed that Dwayne Burns is missing half of his front wing, so he might have had something to do with Greg Patrick's off. I'm not too sure, but Burns is going to immediately dive to the pits and get a new front wing. That's not a great start for the driver who started in P10. Lap 1 is complete. Thomas Hinds has half a second's margin over Harry Lawrence, but we'll have to wait and see who uses push to pass, if any, on this straight here. Dylan Walker immediately on the attack. Most of the drivers are saving their push to passes for later. Ryan Jones and Dylan Walker have decided to get that extra power early.
Yeah, the purple arrows on the timing board will tell you who's using push to pass, but we can see that a few of the guys have already used once already. So we've got 2 cars going side by side here. Ireland are activating the push to pass, try and get past Tyson Broad, I think it is. Ryan Jones. They're going side by side into another hairpin in the stadium section. Oi, that was a bit close, Reece.
Yeah, banging wheels. Ryan Jones trying to, it's the number 23 of Chris Ireland trying to work his way up here on Tyson Broad. He's followed by his DPR teammates Reece Margetts and Ryan Jones as, oh dear, Brody Shepherd with a bit of a trip through the gravel trap there behind. This is a very close fight for P6. Now, is there anything that Tyson Broad can do to shake the DPR train that is forming behind him? That is the big question. So we'll see what happened to Dwayne Burns and Greg. Oh, yeah, okay. So Dwayne Burns wasn't involved in the incident that took Patrick off, but he did get banged around a little on the run out of turn 3.
Yeah, we said that a lot with these open wheelers. It doesn't take a lot to lose a piece of the car here and there, and obviously the front wing's pretty vital. As we see Broad getting hounded by Chris Ireland, I'm probably looking to maybe open up the push to pass now and and get past him on the straight here, which a few guys behind him have, but Ireland not so much. He gets it done down the inside.
Oh, too deep.
Oh, contact again. The stewards will want to be having a look at that as now he's in the middle of the DPR train.
Yeah, Chris Ireland trying to go for the move at the hairpin, just braking a bit too late, I think, and he's having trouble keeping the car under him through the next couple of corners. Ryan Jones now stands a chance to make his way past here. Simrigs.com DPR have been one of the top teams in Fixed Indy Australia this season. They've got to be careful not to trip over each other.
Yeah, I think they might. I'm not sure if they're in a Discord chat together or not, but I think Jonesy might be saying, "Hey, Chris, can you let me through, mate? I've got the pace on you," because he's all over him and he looks like he's ready to make some moves, moving up. But I think we're going to see Ireland get a penalty for that anyway. He definitely missed his mark and took Broad off the track, and hopefully Broad can claw his way back. He didn't lose too much time, and potentially car might be a little bit damaged, but hopefully he can keep his emotions in check and drive his way back through the field here as Edmonds is all over Lawrence. He's got a much better exit out of turn 2. He's got the toe on him as well, Reese.
Indeed he has. Great exit from Daniel Edmonds. This is his first chance here to really fight with Hens, but he has to get on the brakes a bit earlier for the title line into the hairpin. Does Harry Lawrence give him the position? Ultimately, yes. It's difficult to hold the outside around there in these cars. Got to try and put the power down with these V6 turbo engines and very stiff suspension. Lawrence has a bit of a look at the Mercedes arena, but he ultimately is not able to fight back. So we see that both incidents on lap 1 were considered racing incidents due to netcode. Evidently, that's what took Greg Patrick off the circuit, and a big shame for Greg. He's made his way back out onto the circuit, but he's a lap down on everyone else. So he's going to be faced with a lot of challenges on his way up through. Meanwhile, the incident between Broad and Ireland is under review by Race Control. We shall see what kind of decision they make from that, but Tyson Broad, though he looked quick in the opening couple of laps, his pace has started to drop off. Jones and Ireland back on the pace. They are gapping him, and Reese Margetts now starting to round him up.
Yeah, Margetts is looking to set up a pass here potentially in the next few corners, but potentially Tyson is just looking at saving his tyres now. He's dropped a few track positions. Maybe he's going to play the long game here and save some of those push-to passes, save his tyres, potentially look at making some moves in the pits. We see some of the guys. Oi! Someone's just...
no, that's Lawrence.
21. Lawrence has gone straight in the back of O'Brien.
Daniel Edmonds.
Edmonds.
That's for second, and that's promoted Michael O'Brien up to third place now. So Harry Lawrence, he was putting on a great drive early on, but no downforce on that front wing now. He's had to let the whole pack through, and I expect he'll be coming to the pits right away.
Yeah, of course, they get the fast repair. They get one fast repair in this series, so he'll be just looking to slap a new wing on that, put a new set of tyres on, take a little bit fewer, get out there again. If he can make it back to the pits, that thing would be very difficult to drive at the moment with no front wing, well, half a front wing, if you will. So we're cutting to the replay here. It looks like he's just missed his mark and drilled him. And I don't think Edmonds got any damage from that. Touch wood. But Harry Lawrence will probably be kicking himself at the moment. He was in such a good position there, and now he's going to be tumbling down the order.
Yeah, he'll probably switch to the alternate compound tyre for this, just try and keep some track position if he can. Walker now evidently hustling for third place. Michael O'Brien ahead of him in that position, and Daniel Edmonds was using push to pass on the last lap before he got unfortunately drilled. O'Brien now using push to pass to try and stay ahead of Walker, and Chris Ireland has caught right up to these guys. Ireland was looking a little wobbly before, but he's back on it now. Replay, meanwhile, for Greg Patrick, who's had another issue just getting over the curb on the exit of the corner, and he's trying again to get it going, but there's a piece of the front wing stuck under the car, and unfortunately, no steering for him, so that's not good at all. He has to stop and let the rest of the field go. It's a disastrous night for Greg Patrick.
Yeah, Greg's not doing too well. He has made it back to the pits, so, it's not over yet. His wheel, look at his wheel on the Zoom feed. He is opposite lock to the max. He's not going to be too stoked with that result so far, but I'm assuming he's already used his fast repair in that first incident as well. So it's been confirmed he has already used his fast repair, so I don't think he'll be taking much more part in this race, at least in a competitive standpoint.
Yeah, it's a shame. Well, we keep an eye on Chris Ireland here, one of the drivers to start on the alternate compound tyre, and it's a big part of the reason why he's made up so much ground here. He's now on push to pass, see the dash light up, green, to signify that extra power being put down, and Dylan Walker might very well be demoted to fourth here. He lifts out of the throttle early, does Walker, and allows Ireland to grab it. Probably thinking about the long game here is Dylan Walker. Remember, Ireland is on the softer compound, but it wears out faster than the prime compound, and there is a big pace advantage at the start of a stint, but it only lasts for a few laps.
Yes, it looks like he's playing the long game for sure.
Oh,
I think he just skipped across the sausage curve there, but we see the 5-second time penalty for Ireland for not leaving the racing room with Tyson Broad, and we called that earlier that was coming. 5 seconds, he's probably lucky to get away with that, with Tyson not getting too much damage out of it as well. So 5 seconds is probably the right penalty in my eyes. Won't ruin anyone's race, but it'll definitely put a little bit of weight in the back of the car, so to speak.
Yeah, certainly will. So Ireland's goal now is to try and build up some extra time. He'll probably go for the alternate compound in both of his initial stints, just to make sure he gets that down. This is a replay for Tyson Broad, meanwhile. Big slide on the exit of the Sachs curve, and that's why he is behind Reese Margetts now. And Reese is not exactly driving away from him, but has enough of a gap that he can play with it. Broad, though, is in the slipstream and could catch back up by the time they get to the hairpin. Margetts is going to stay in the middle of the road, defensive here for the 110, and Broad will have to try and straighten up the car as much as he can. He's just not getting the traction he needs.
Yeah, we know these cars can be a little bit hard for traction, and especially when it's a fixed set, you can't dial the car into exactly how you want it. So Broad's probably just got to take a little step back and take a few breaths and just remember to try and hit his marks and keep the car straight and try not to overdrive it, because it's quite easy to do once you start falling through the order. You get a little bit frustrated with yourself and you think, I've got to get past this guy, Just need to reset, mentally reset, and just get back to hitting your marks and doing what you know you can do. Tyson Broad is a very fast driver. I'm sure he can make his way back up once he clears that red mist.
Yeah, indeed. Just got to, like you say, hit the marks, ideally not the grass, and keep the tyres nice and clean, because these hard compound tyres, they do last a while, but they are prone to overheating, like all tyres, if you push them too hard. And running close behind another car is one of the prime places for tyres to overheat. Can Broad get the move done at the hairpin this time? He ends up getting a good exit from turns 2 and 3, but again, he's not quite close enough. And again, Margetts sees him coming. Broad will draw alongside, but that's probably a bit too deep, and he'll stay with him on the exit. The outside line is a straighter exit generally, so that might have actually worked in Broad's favour. Let's see if he can get the move done here at Mercedes. He's deep. Margetts lets him through and will try and come back on the exit. Time for the back and forth. Margetts off the racing line. No grip out there, and Broad will keep the position.
Wow, that was a fantastic move. We were just saying, calm down, maybe hit your marks, and he says, shut up, I know what I'm doing. He's just pulled that move right out of the back pocket and slotted straight in there. Margetts is probably pretty smart to let that one go for a minute. He potentially will be looking to get that place back in the coming laps, but for now, Broad's back up to P7, and he's still got his 10 push to passes, and he started on the harder compound tyres, so he should be looking long term here. He should be looking okay.
Yeah, let's see if he can gap Margets by the time they get to the first pit cycle. Here's Chris Ireland now facing off against Dylan Walker. Those alternate compound tyres are past their prime now. Ireland's just trying to keep them cool. But again, we see Walker backing out of a move. That's something that we're not seeing from everyone else, is lifting on the entry to the hairpin. Walker, I think part of it is just, trying to play it safe here in the opening stint, but also maybe save a bit of fuel, shorten one of his pit stops to come.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Dylan Walker's a pretty reserved and clever driver. I think he's probably playing the long game, like you say. While he is on the alternate compound at the moment, it still can just be an alternate strategy to what everyone else is doing. So, apologies, I don't think he's actually... I got the cars mixed up there, but you know what I mean. He's on the long strategy. He's just playing it smart. I think that's the way to go. Is Thomas Hinz currently in the lead by a couple of seconds. Edmonds and O'Brien not too far behind as well. You see Ireland, is making up a little bit of ground being on the alternate tyres. So he's probably not too far off his first pit stop either, though, Chris Ireland. So see how that goes.
Yeah, we're thinking that the alternate compound runners are about 3 or 4 laps away from pitting. So, we'll see just how long they end up lasting. Prime runners will probably be staying out until around lap 15, lap 20 at the very least. And if you're on the primes now, maybe it's prescient to go for 2 alternate stints to the end. But we haven't seen that happen a lot at road courses. The drivers that are on the prime compound, they tend to prefer it and only run the alternates when they absolutely need to, potentially right at the end. So we'll keep an eye on Chris Ireland here, see if he can gap Dylan Walker. Remember, he has a 5-second penalty hanging over his head from that earlier incident. So now is the time to be making up that time.
Yeah, but Walker, even on the prime tyres, has done the fastest lap of the race so far. So he's shown that he's got some pace here, and he's not to be ignored. So I think, like we said, the alternate tyre guys probably going to come into the next few laps. Potentially, they're hoping for a safety car towards the start, and we had a few incidents where there potentially could have been one. But I think everyone's sort of settling in a little bit now and looking at playing the long game, staying. Keeping the tyres good, not running over the curbs too hard and ending up in the fence, and just trying to take things a little bit safer. I think with the smaller grid compared to a few other weeks we've had, there's more points up for grabs for some of the guys that might normally finish a little bit further down the grid. So you've got to take that opportunity when it's there and just try and get a good finish from the back of the grid if you're one of those guys as well.
Yeah, speaking of further down, Harry Lawrence, after pitting for a new front wing after his contact with Daniel Edmonds, is now back up to 13th spot, and one of 2 drivers to have made a stop so far. Both he and Dwayne Burns pitted for damage, and they've both stayed on the prime compound. So we're expecting them to visit the pits again to get some soft tyres on as Lawrence makes the move on Mark Cochran, up to 12th spot now, but he has got a long way ahead of him. The best he can hope for is a full course caution, a safety car to bring the field back together. Otherwise, he'll be stuck in no man's land for the rest of the race. Dylan Walker still chasing down Chris Ireland. This is the only other real battle on track at the moment. The field is spaced out quite a bit. And as you say, Dean, everyone just getting into the rhythm now, except, of course, for these 2. Ireland trying desperately to hold on to as much track position as he can. He almost ran into the grass on the way into turn 1, as Ryan Jones is going to be the first of our scheduled pit stops here, jumping off that alternate compound tyre as Walker is on push to pass now. Could he get past Ireland and into 4th place? Look at how much power that gives you. The overspeed is magnificent. Now, can he slow it down in time for the hairpin is the big question. Looks like he can. He'll hit the apex and Chris Ireland will yield.
Yeah, that's well done by Walker there. He's bided his time a bit, making the move stick, and he just used that push to pass and just absolutely blew past him on the straight, and then just all he had to do was keep it linked up. through the braking zone into the Switzer hairpin. But well done, Dylan Walker. I'd definitely be, if I was a betting man, I'd be putting a few bucks on him to finish on that podium, as we see Jones getting down the inside of Cochrane. Is Jones one of the guys that just pitted? Sorry?
Yes, just came out of the pits on the primary.
Yep, so he's back onto the harder compound tyre and looking to sort of get back on track with his race. And Edmonds and Hinz, there's only a second and a half between them now, so Edmonds has caught up a little bit since last time we checked in with the boys at the top. Racking up a few off tracks potentially there, Hinz, if he's going to use that line every time. Not sure if there's an instant limit here, but you got to be careful of that too if that's going to become a factor towards the end of the race. 45 laps is a pretty long time.
It is indeed. There goes Ireland into the pit lane. He is going to switch to the primaries, and out he will come, presumably for as long a run as he can get. Ireland's pit stop was 8.5 seconds just then. Ryan Jones's pit stop 8.3. So it seems like Ireland is pretty much running the same strategy as Jones, as Harry Lawrence now has to face off against the number 11, both on reasonably fresh rubber, but Lawrence obviously with the disadvantage here. He pitted earlier, had to get some damage repair. Now, will he be able to face off against Ryan Jones? There is a solid pace difference between these guys, but Lawrence is the one on the recovery here.
Yeah, I think Lawrence will start making his way through the field pretty soon. Obviously, he's just made his way past Burns there, but yeah, a few push to passes being activated towards the back of the field as well. So it's not just a race for the top; it's a race for everywhere. Every position matters. Every position on the timing tower, as far as I'm aware, will get you some sort of points. So yeah, the guys will be looking at getting it anywhere they can, really, but. Few recovery drives happening, anything can happen. Where sometimes when you get some of the faster guys at the back of the grid, you can end up with some miscommunications with car placement and things like that, and that's where you can end up with a little bit of trouble and potentially safety cars for Greg Patrick back on track as well. So safety car's not really going to help him, but it's good to see him back out there. Got that nice VR headset on. He's probably enjoying the view of his car being back together. Probably not enjoying the cold tyres so much, though, it looks like.
Yeah, he's just pulled off the circuit there to let the leaders by. It looks like Thomas Hinz coming up to lap Greg Patrick again and put him 10 laps down on the field. Everyone else is still running on the lead lap. Now, lap 15 of 45, there'll be, hello, Dwayne Burns just making the move on Harry Lawrence there. Burns has gotten some great pace back, it seems. Qualifying, he wasn't quite up with Lawrence, Hinz and Edmonds, but on race pace, Burns seems to be doing quite well. It's a shame that he had to take that early pit stop for damage. We could be looking at a very different race for him otherwise.
Yeah, he just needs a little bit of luck potentially, and he can be right up the top again. But yeah, he's got some outstanding pace in the race. Like you said, wasn't the greatest qualifying session for him, but you don't win the race by qualifying well. You got to win the race by racing well. And this battle between Broad and Margetts here is starting to heat up a little bit. The guys are getting close together. Broad's up to P5, and Margetts, of course, in P6 behind. Both of them on the prime tyres. As Margetts has probably got a bit of a toe here from Broad, but he's definitely not close enough to be making a move yet. But that'll definitely be front of mind for him. How can I get past Tyson?
Indeed, and Harry Lawrence has decided to come in for his first scheduled pit stop here. I don't know what tyre set he'll likely go on. I would expect him to stay with the primes for now, and it looks like he is. He's going to be saving those alternate compound tyres for the very end of the race where they really matter. So he'll re-emerge back onto the racetrack in 15th place. So we check back in, of course, with Margetts and Broad. Yeah, this is a very tight battle between them. But you can see that Margetts is having a bit of trouble with understeer, it seems. He was a bit wide at the apex there coming into the stadium section. So maybe it's time for these guys to consider making their way into the pits. Not just yet, though. Fastest lap for Daniel Edmonds. He's really catching Thomas Hinz now. The gap is staying at about 1.7, 1.8 seconds, but Hinz can't rest just yet.
Yeah, Edmonds all over the back of him at the moment, but we talked about track limits and things like that before. You got to be careful of that, but we're on board with Margetts at the moment. And yeah, speaking of track limits, he's gone quite wide there, but track is a little bit warm at the moment, 39 degrees on the circuit, but yeah, 3:30 in the afternoon is probably going to cool off a little bit as the race progresses, and potentially looking at, yeah, I think the soft tyre, the alternate tyre is the way to go towards the end of the race, potentially looking at making a few spots, because yeah, this track, this car, and this sort of heat on the circuit is obviously not going to do wonders for your tyres. So potentially looking at yeah, just biding your time and letting the hard one take you through as long as it can. And I think we're going to have 2 fuel stops as well. So you're definitely going to need 2 stops in this one. As we see someone locking up there, was that
yeah, Baxter? Yeah, Peter Baxter. Yeah, involved with Atsushi Yosafune and the newly pitted Chris Ireland. As, wow, Daniel Edmonds has just gone even faster, 124.4. The fuel is burning off and the pace is coming back to the number 84 there at the front of the field. But keep an eye on this battle here. Peter Baxter, he's been trying his best to stay in front here. He's up 4 spots from where he started, largely due to issues for drivers ahead of him. But we'll keep an eye on the lap times here. Looks like Baxter quite consistent. He ran a little bit faster than Osafune, but Chris Ireland is coming. Managed to run a full second faster than both of these drivers ahead of him. And Rhys Margetts, meanwhile, has finally made his way past Tyson Broad. It looks like that move was done at the hairpin.
Yeah, he'd been setting that one up for a few laps, and yeah, just eventually got it done at the hairpin. I'm not sure if he used push to pass or anything, but we go to the replay here. He's on his tail all the way down, and then gets it on the inside before the braking zone. Even he's well past him, so potentially Broad just let him through there. Yeah, tactical lift. We let him go through, Rhys, and see where you go, but. Meanwhile, we've seen Greg Patrick has unfortunately retired from the race. Probably wasn't really enjoying being 10 laps down and getting out of everyone's way, which is fair enough. And yeah, apparently as well, Chris Ireland has not served his penalty yet.
Yeah, that time will be added on at the end of the race, it seems. Meanwhile, big move into the pits. Daniel Edmonds and Michael O'Brien both making their way in. So early call here for Edmonds and O'Brien. They'll stay on the primary compound. They will have to take some time to heat those tyres up. Undercut doesn't always work in IndyCar because there's no tyre warmers. The tyres start ice cold. So this might give a bit more of an advantage to Thomas Hinz. We'll have to wait and see on that.
I think we'll find out a little bit later in the race when it gets towards the end and everyone's sort of bunched together again, and it matters, you know, a few laps in between tyre changes. But we got O'Brien and Ireland and Asafanian behind as well. But Ireland looking to set up the move on O'Brien, and we're seeing a lot of moves done here at the hairpin. And can he get it done? He's not quite got it done, and O'Brien's held it around the outside. You were talking about how difficult that was earlier, but O'Brien is saying, no, not yet, mate. I'm going to take you around the outside.
Yeah, but he runs a bit deep, a little too deep there, and this could give the chance to Ireland to sneak through at Mobile. Let's see then. Nice and wide entry, but the track narrows up on the way through. Got to be careful in a battle, and he makes his way through, does Christopher Ireland. So now O'Brien can focus on getting his tyres up to temp as Thomas Hinz responds to that call from Edmonds and O'Brien. Dylan Walker, Rhys Margetts, Tyson Broad also into the lane, and Hinz is going to emerge. Wow, looks like on the alternate compound tyres. Interesting response here from Thomas Hinz.
And Dylan Walker as well on the alternate, and Tyson Broad. So a few red circles on that timing tower at the moment, but that is not something we're expecting to see, well, at least me personally. But that might change things up a little bit later as we see O'Brien and Walker both with the push to pass on, looking at trying to get past Ireland here. O'Brien is, and looks like he might be able to get this one done down the inside. And Walker not too far behind either. These guys are looking to gain some track position. Walker now on the alternates. He's probably going to be looking at picking up the pace a little bit once he can get some heat into them tyres, but not before he's coming right back at him. Far out, getting a little bit slidey through the Mercedes turn there, and the number 45 is staying out in front at the moment.
What a great battle this is. These drivers are so close together and almost getting into the back of Chris Ireland is Dylan Walker. I think those alternate compound tyres are up to temperature now. Look at the cornering speed he has. Just sweeps by Ireland on the inside of Sachs curve. Beautiful stuff from Dylan Walker. And you know what? Hinz as well going for the alternate compound tyre. It's worked out for him. He had the overcut. He was able to stay out another lap on those primary compound tyres. And as Edmonds and O'Brien were getting it up to temperature, Hinz was able to do a mega in-lap, and he's kept that lead, even extended it. 3.5 seconds nearly is the gap for the race lead. And Hinz is on the better tyre for at least a few laps.
Yeah, Hinz is playing chess and everyone else playing checkers at the moment. That was a brilliant move from him, but obviously it comes down to your raw pace and, like you said, that in-lap. So we go into a replay of the Robert Baxter potentially getting to a little bit of strife here by himself on the outside of Mobile 1 there. And, that's not really where you want to be, obviously, but he's gathered it up pretty well, and no harm, no foul aside from time. Spoke too soon. Around he goes. I think there's a little bit of a ridge there, which is easy to do that on, but you almost got away with that one.
Yeah, he gathered all the eggs into the basket, and then the bottom of the basket fell out, unfortunately. So, we'll keep an eye on him to see if he can keep it together for the rest of the race. But O'Brien's going to have trouble keeping it together with a hard-charging Dylan Walker behind him. Some tactical lifting in the initial stint for Walker. He saved fuel. He managed to get a not very quick pit stop out of it, but potentially shortening his final pit stop. Playing the long game is Dylan Walker, and he'll back out a little into turn 1, but take advantage on the exit as the fastest lap indeed goes to Dylan Walker. Beautiful job that Walker is doing right now. O'Brien, all he's got to do is make his car the widest in the turn at Hockenheim.
Oh yeah, and that's going to be as wide as he can make it, but Walker's got the push to pass on now. He's getting closer and closer, we can see on the rear wing camera, and he's got the overlap, so he should be able to get this done before they're going through the braking zone now, but he still gets it done. I thought he might have been that quick he was going to get through before the braking zone, but O'Brien realises that he doesn't quite have the pace to stay in front of Walker, and that's him up into P3, but that is a great move, but the time gain on the last lap is huge from Hinz and Edmonds. 22 seconds between. Wow.
Yeah, well, that was the pit stop lap. Look at lap 21. 1.2 seconds slower was Daniel Edmonds on the last lap. So Thomas Hinz is taking full advantage of the softer compound here.
Yeah, he's done well there. I think, that pit stop in lap and out lap, and then, he's put a fair bit of time on him now. But obviously it'll be interesting to see how these alternates hold up, as he's just done another fastest lap in the 24, almost flat. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these alternates hold up over the full stint. He might start dropping back towards the end of it with Edmonds on the primes. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, it's all going to come down. The last few laps will really find out who's made the right decision. Walker is on the push to pass again, so it looks like he's still pretty far behind Edmonds, so he's looking to just gain as much track position as he can on these alternates. It's probably not a bad idea when you've got them on, and then potentially, just cruising, hopefully for him, probably a P2 towards the end. Looking to do that when he's on the prime tyres.
Indeed. Incident between Ryan Jones and Tyson Broad under review. I think we missed this. This is at turn 1. On the replay, Broad trying up the inside of Jones, and he dove up the inside there. Jones had to take avoiding action off into the runoff area on the exit of turn 1. It's not usually a spot you see passes being made, and well, we were just shown why.
Yeah, potentially there's a bit of netcode in there. I did see like a little bit of a niggly movement from one of the cars with a small gap between them. So potentially it's been called in from netcode, but yeah, the evasive action probably looks like more of the play. But yeah, passing, you definitely don't want to be on the outside of turn 1. It's just really difficult to hold that outside line, and we saw in the opening stanza of the race that getting on that curve at full pace, if you're in the wrong angle, it can spit you out into the wall. And Osafuni and Lawrence having a nice little battle here for P11. So we'll keep a close eye on that one, Reece.
Yeah, all drivers have made their first scheduled pit stop as things stand. Osafune trying to hold on here to 11th spot, but Lawrence, of course, has had great pace in qualifying and in the first part of the race. If he hadn't had his issue at the hairpin earlier, it's the same for Dwayne Burns. We might be looking at a very different race for Harry Lawrence. He's on the push to pass, and here we go, trying to make the move on Osafune at the hairpin, hard on the brakes. He missed his braking point earlier, and that's why he was so far down, and it looks like he's missed it again. He's gone a bit too deep, and Osafune responds beautifully with a run up the inside on the exit.
Yeah, he got that a little bit too deep again, but he's looking at having another go here. Potentially can get it stopped into the Mercedes stadium section. They're still side by side, and Lawrence is not going to get past Osafune very easily, but now he's got the overlap coming into Mobile 1, and that is definitely somewhere you don't want to be on the outside. So Osafune just lets him through, I think, there once he realised he wasn't going to hold on to that one much longer, potentially risk ruining his race by trying to hang on to a position like that on the outside of Mobile 1 is not ideal. Edmund seems to be catching a little bit on Hinz on the last lap there, but the 2 laps before, Thomas Hinz is absolutely driving away with this at the moment.
Yeah, well, you know what this tells us? It's that the optimum phase for the alternate compound tyres is over. That extra grip, that extra pace has dropped off now for Thomas Hinz, and he'll be hoping that he's built enough of a gap to be able to manage those tyres and keep the lead when he comes in for his second pit stop. Interesting to note that Thomas Hinz still hasn't used any of his push to passes yet. All of that pace that he's got is purely down to his driving. He loves the IndyCar. He's said multiple times that he's racing in this series for fun, and he wasn't really paying too much attention to his championship standing, but in the last couple of rounds he's realized, oh, hang on a minute, I can actually win this, and he's really put in a great amount of effort for this round. Beautiful stuff. So currently live points up in the top right corner here. If Hinz finishes where he is, and basically if the race ended right now, Hinz would extend the championship lead by 12 points over Daniel Edmonds. Margetts would stay in third. O'Brien would move up into fourth place. And Tim Vaughan, who's unfortunately not here this round, will be equal fourth with O'Brien. Some excellent performances that we are getting out of this round.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Hinz, like you say, he wanted to have fun, but there's only one thing more fun about racing, and that's winning races. So he'll definitely be enjoying himself there. I've heard from a lot of people this car's a lot of fun to drive, and Thomas is doing a really good job at showcasing that. But going back to the points as well, like Margetts potentially looking a little bit probably disappointed with himself so far. He's up there in the standings, and he probably needs to start making up a bit more ground to keep his championship points up near the top dogs, obviously at the moment. Dwayne Burns looking to make a move on Osafune, and can he get it done down to the hairpin? Yes, he can, and we're seeing that is a real hot spot for overtaking. Said that in the intro. One of the best place to overtake on the track. You got such a long straight. You've got the DPR cars battling over 7th as we speak of Margetts before as well, Reece.
Yep, Margetts and Jones together at the moment trying to work themselves out. I was looking at Michael O'Brien on my end, and he had a massive slide in the penultimate corner, so maybe keep an eye out for O'Brien overheating his tyres. We'll keep an eye on Margetts and Jones though, and Marget's managing to maintain the pace here, but Jones is on the charge. He's certainly had great pace in the race so far, but now he's on the he's on the prime compound tyre and using push to pass to try and get past his teammate. Jones's pace has come alive here in the middle stint. He's obviously a lot more comfortable on the prime tyre, and Marget's will let his teammate through at the hairpin.
Yep, no team orders there. That was just raw pace alone. We saw in the pace difference in the last few laps that that Jones definitely had the moves going on him. But have a look at that. Marget still hasn't used any push to passes as well. Jones obviously down to 7 now after using that one there. But yeah, that'll be interesting. He's saving a few in his pocket for a bit later. But yeah, potentially letting Jones through to go and have a fight with Tyson Broad in the next 15 laps or so. Hopefully he can catch up to the back of him. But yeah, we also just having a look at the push to pass as well. Dylan Walker's all the way down to 5 now as well. Obviously, you can't keep them for the next race, so he's going to use them tonight. So Harry Lawrence getting up alongside Pete Baxter there on the outside of Mobile 1. And he lets it go. He's potentially looking at coming back. No, he doesn't. He stays behind Pete at the moment in that beautiful flamey livery. I love that.
Yeah, the Delta Sport livery the CX2 Racing livery is one of my favourites out there. But Harry Lawrence stands a chance of getting back into the top 10 here for Delta Sport. And, well, he's not going to be brave enough to attempt a move at turn 1. The line between brave and silly is very thin at that corner. Turn 2 is a better chance to do it. And up the inside he will go. Baxter on the brakes a bit earlier, lets him have it. And we'll see if Lawrence decides to use push to pass to maintain that gap. Yes, he will. But crucially, Baxter's still in the slipstream. Will he be able to maintain an advantage coming into the hairpin? Try and make life more difficult for Harry Lawrence. He won't. He'll stick in line in the braking zone and maybe allow Lawrence to drag him along. Remember, Baxter is racing other people further down the field.
Yeah, I think Lawrence will be happy he's finally got past Baxter there. He's starting to make his way into the top 10, of course. Still got 7 push to passes left, so plenty to go at the end of the race. We've got Mark Cochrane on Dean Jacobson here. He's got the push to pass on down the straightaway, well, sort of straightaway, I suppose, into the hairpin, and can get it done under brakes. He's looking like he's coming in pretty hot, but he's got it dialed up and gets the move done quite nicely. I think Dean there recognise the pace difference as well, and that it's very hard to hold the outside there. So as we see, like another update from race control, Reese.
Yeah, the incident between Jones and Broad at turn 1, no further action from there. So, yeah, evidently Jones wasn't too happy with Broad. The stewards have decided, well, it's fine by us. There wasn't any contact, and though Jones did go off the track, it didn't result in a bigger incident, so they've let that one slide. The 84 of Daniel Edmonds continuing to chase down Thomas Hinz here. And he is running faster than Hinz at the moment, but not by much. I think he's just down into tyre management mode again. But Hinz will have to do a bit more managing on those softer compound tyres. This is a very interesting battle for the lead. Edmonds has yet to use the alternate compound, and I would suspect he's going to be saving it for the final stint of the race. Whether or not he'll be able to catch back up to Hinz, though, remains to be seen. Hinz has just built up an almost unassailable lead right now.
Yeah, but there's still 15 odd laps to go, so anything can happen. As we see these two boys going at it again, Cochrane and Jacobson. Jacobson looking to get it done around the outs. Jacobson trying to get done around the outside, but there's not a lot of room out there, and very tricky one to get done. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see with these top two guys, because obviously the tyre difference at the moment is contributing a lot to the pace. We did see that these boys were pretty close when they've got the same tyres and the same age tyres as well. It's bloody bouncy over the curve there, Pete. But I think in the long term, potentially Hinz has made the chess move here and looking to drive away with this thing, even once he goes back to the primes.
Yeah, and you never know. He could stay on the alternates at the next pit stop. You do have to use both tyre compounds, but you can use the soft tyre more than the hard tyre if you want to. Hins might have the margin. He needs to play around with that a little. This fight between Peter Baxter and Dwayne Burns is starting to heat up. Baxter, of course, giving up the position to Harry Lawrence a couple of laps ago. And looks like Isaac Edwards in race control is watching the exact same thing that we are. Dan Yeaman, meanwhile, his camera is on the left-hand side. Dan, of course, is our race director here at Aussie Online Gaming. He's keeping an eye on happenings throughout the event as Ryan Jones has jumped into the pits for his second stop of the race. Now, I would expect he's going to stay on the primary compound tyres. We've still got a long way to the end. But no, he's going to go back to the alternates. That's an interesting decision there.
Yeah, I think he's going to do a little bit of gambling here, see if he can get it done. But, I mean, he's only got, 14 laps to go, 15 laps to go. So you can definitely make them last that long, potentially gain a couple of spots and just hold on to them. And it's one thing being able to catch up. It's another thing being able to pass. He's still got 7 push-to-passes left as well, so he's got plenty of those up his sleeve if he wants to make that 6 now. He's trying to keep out in front of Baxter and Burns here. He doesn't want any part of that battle. Just trying to get back onto rhythm now, get those tyres warm and see what he can make of it. But that is a risky move. Baxter locking up a little bit there, but holds on to it.
Yeah, speaking of risky, it's getting a bit risky for Dwayne Burns here. He's trying to keep up with Jones, who's just come out of the pits ahead of these guys, and he needs to be careful not to run into the back of Peter Baxter there. Gained a lot of time in the braking zone. Is there going to be an opportunity here, is the question. Better run out of Mercedes. Ireland, meanwhile, comes into the pit lane from 6th spot. I would expect him to come out pretty much level with these guys. Remember, Ireland and Jones were pretty close together. Ireland, too, has gone back to the alternate compound tyres. Brodie Shepherd is the driver that he's racing at the moment out of the pits. Ireland will come out ahead. Brodie Shepherd, a driver we haven't given much attention to in this race. He switched to the alternate compound tyres coming out of his stop. Be interesting to see how that works out for him.
Yeah, maybe the guys are seeing that what sort of lap times Hins can do with those alternates and is trying to follow suit. But I think Pete Baxter is wearing through his tyres quite a lot. We've seen him lock up a few times. Maybe they're towards the end of their life, and Burns is all over him at the moment. He's got the push to pass on. He has got a huge pace difference at the moment down that straightaway. And I think he'll get that one done quite easily with a little lock-up as you go through, if you don't mind. But he's carried that momentum through and kept that position for himself, as we see Hins coming up to the back of the pack now. Is that lapping a car there?
Yeah.
And then we've got Edmonds just behind by about 4 seconds. So, yeah, it's definitely lap traffic there. Dean Jacobson, Robbie Baxter, Mark Cochran being lapped there. But their fight's still on, and Hins has used his first push to pass of the race to make his first, one of his first, I think, passes of the lap traffic, get it out of the way. Yep.
Jacobson and Cochran still battling with each other as Hins went through, and Hins, with that lap traffic, lost some crucial time to Daniel Edmonds. Michael O'Brien, meanwhile, is looking aggressive, down to 5 push-to-passes now, trying to chase down Dylan Walker. Remember, Walker switched to the alternate compound tyres for his first stop, and they are well past their prime phase now. So I'm looking for Michael O'Brien to be gaining and gaining hard coming through these last few laps. Now, we're looking at about 12 to 13 laps max on these alternate compound tyres. Walker's been out there for 13 laps. Meanwhile, Peter Baxter bouncing over the curbs and into the wall. Big crash coming out of turn 1. Looks like race control have allowed him to continue on. He's going to try and limp back to the pits with only 3 wheels attached to the car. That's a big shame there for Peter Baxter. But I think, Dean, that really goes to show just how simple the suspension of these Indy cars is compared to Formula One, as that was Tyson Broad going for Dylan Walker going for a big old slide as Broad actually comes into the pits. Yeah, you see F1 cars over those curbs and they're able to take them beautifully, but these Indy cars have much more simple suspension. They tend to bounce a lot more, so drivers need to be careful about how much curb they're using. Marget's as well, making his way into the lane.
Yeah, you're right, Reece. These cars are definitely a lot more stiff, but as well, I think it comes down to the fixed setup as well. You can't really tune them. A little bump there from Lawrence, not sure what that was, but you can't really tune them to have the softer suspension, and I believe that the setup they're running is designed for Spa-Francorchamps.
Yes.
So that track, you don't really want to drive over a lot of curbs there. There's maybe one or two, but they're nowhere near as bumpy as these ones at Hockenheim, so that plays into it as well. But we did see Pete Baxter bouncing across those curbs earlier, and we made a comment, and you can come unstuck pretty easily. He has done pretty well to limp so far back around to the pits. Potentially, I thought we might be in for a late safety car with a bit of drama. But he can say he's got one thing in common with Michael Schumacher, and that's driving a car with 3 wheels all the way back to the pits.
Yeah, indeed. Walker and O'Brien, meanwhile, both pitting at the same time. This will be an interesting matchup. Will there be a switch to the alternates for Michael O'Brien? Who will have the quicker pit stop out of the two? Let's wait and see as they come to a stop in their boxes. It was a bit of a lock-up for O'Brien on the way in there, and Walker is away, so is O'Brien. They are going to be together coming out of pit lane, but O'Brien's going to be behind. They are both on the alternate compound tyres now. Chris Ireland on fresher alternates, making his way past them, and he'll likely gap them as they get their tyres up to temperature.
Yeah, I think that came down to who took the most fuel and who got into their box better. But that was really well done there by Dylan Walker to get past O'Brien. As we see him just sitting around that 4th position still, but he's probably looking at getting past Chris Island pretty soon once he gets those tyres up to temp. He's all over that rear wing of that car in front of him, and potentially he's got a few of those push-to-passes up his sleeve still, so he might be able to use them. But he is all over the back of him at the moment, even with the cold tyres.
There he is. I think they'll be almost up to temperature now, and Ireland will have to be looking over his shoulder. He's been out there for 3 laps on these tyres now, and the pace will start to drop off from here. Walker will try and nail the throttle coming out of Mobile. Won't go for the move into Sachs curve. He has to keep an eye out for O'Brien behind. Remember, Tyson Broad is out there as well. He's just come out of the pits himself, also on the alternate compound tyre. We're going to see what these drivers can really do.
Yeah, Walker and Ireland there actually made contact as Ireland moved over to cover that line. I'm not sure if Walker's probably called that into race control to say, hey, have a look at that. But he'll be looking to try and get any advantage he can. He's all over the back of him heading into turn 2. He's so close to him at the moment. The margin for error is absolutely minuscule. And now we got the longest straight here, and one of the longest straights. They both go push to pass. They're both trying to hold on to see who can get that last podium spot. Dylan Walker got around the outside as we coming into the hairpin. He's a bit later on the brakes. Ireland just holding on to that inside line.
Oh, he's got it.
He's still got it. They're both pushed to pass again, and Walker still overlapping. And not to count out Michael O'Brien, and a massive lock up, and off he goes, Reece.
Chris Ireland sliding into the gravel there. Tyson Broad will take the position off him, and now O'Brien will be on the attack as Daniel Edmonds was gaining on Hins, now jumps into the lane, and he'll have to go to the alternate compound now. Let's see what happened here to Chris Ireland as, oh my goodness, that's quite the bump that he was given there from Dylan Walker. Oh man, this is turning into a very intense race. Daniel Edmonds has completed his pit stop. No surprise, he's on those red alternate compound tyres. Question is, will he be able to make up any ground on Thomas Hins, who's still out there on alternates that are very worn?
I wonder if Hins has enough fuel to get to the end, because he's leaving this stop very late, but potentially just quite happy with how those tyres are going. But this battle for P3 is still on. The boys are still fighting over it, even though they're a man down in that battle. Dylan Walker and Michael O'Brien still going to be fighting over this position all the way to the end, I believe. As we see, there is no further action there between Ireland and Walker from that slight bit of contact we saw earlier. As we see the two DPR cars as well, Margetts and Jones. They can't get enough of each other, these two, Reece.
Yeah, certainly not. Jones and Margetts have not had a moment without each other this race, as Hinz is going to jump into the pit lane from the lead. Will he be able to hold on to it versus Daniel Edmonds? He was able to get an overcut on the primary compound tyres, but I don't think an overcut will be very strong on the alternates. Hinzy is going to stay on the alternate compound and emerge just in front of Daniel Edmonds coming through turn 1. I think Edmonds might have him here coming into turn 2. Hinz gets up to speed. He'll be on the inside into the second turn, and he holds on to it. Now Edmonds might just use push to pass to complete the maneuver here. His tyres are up to temperature. He's got the pace. Hinz responds. Both of them on push to pass. The battle for the lead of the race has come down to this. Daniel Edmonds making those gains on the primary compound tyre earlier, now has a go at getting past Thomas Hinz into the hairpin. Will it be the over-under? No, too much bouncing over the curb. Edmonds is going to have to wait.
Wow, I didn't think it would be that close coming out of the pits, but Edmonds has done a really good job to try and get the overcut. It just fell short. Thomas Hinz now his tyre's a little bit warmer. He's got 2 more push to passes up his sleeve. He's just going to be looking to keep the pace up. Edmonds is a little bit too far back at the moment to be thinking about making a move, but there's still a fair few laps left in this race, and anything can happen. We've seen these guys in qualifying; they were only half a tenth apart, so they are going to be fighting this one to the end. And Ireland has hit the incident limit. So I did talk about that potentially coming into play earlier. He's hit the 20, potentially picked up a 4X with that contact with Dylan Walker. As we saw in Mobile 1 there. But speaking of battles, Reece Margetts and Ryan Jones. Margetts has got Jones on the overtake.
Yeah, he certainly has, and there's a chance that Michael O'Brien will be able to make his way past Dylan Walker here if he plays his cards right. This is the battle for third, and they just deal with a bit of lap traffic there. Dean Jacobson coming out of the pit lane. They got to keep an eye out for Tyson Broad as well. Look at how close Broad is now. This is going to be an interesting fight. Out of the opening turns, Broad on push to pass. Neither O'Brien nor Walker deciding to use that extra power, but O'Brien's got the pace in the slipstream. He's going to move to the inside. Walker will widen the entry as much as he can. Has he gone too deep? He'll have to allow O'Brien past on the exit, but he could come back at Mercedes.
Yeah, they're still pretty close to each other. There's a tiny bit of overlap as Walker goes wide, and Walker's got the inside into the Mercedes now. But then he'll have the outside, of course, into the next corner. He's a little bit squirrely coming out of it. Michael O'Brien getting the move done. It took him a few corners, but and now, look, don't count out Tyson Broad because he is right on the back of these guys. We've seen him up and down the timing sheet all day, and he's crawled his way back to P5, which is a fantastic effort from him. These boys are all on the same compound tyres as far as I can see at the moment. They've got similar amounts of push to pass left, except... yeah, they're all on 6 push to pass, except Dylan Walker's only got 2 left, so that'll be close coming to the end. I think he'll be having to be a little bit more rational with those.
Yeah, indeed. There's only 6 laps remaining in the race, and Thomas Hinz has taken the fastest lap back. He's starting to build that crucial gap over Daniel Edmonds. Edmonds had a go at him, but once Hinz gets on the pace, there's very little you can do to stop him. O'Brien trying to get away from Walker and Broad, but Broad wants to follow. Both of them on push to pass, and Walker just has to wait and see how this works out coming into the hairpin. They all slow down without much incident. Good to see. But I get the feeling this battle is going to go off in these last 5 upcoming laps of the race. It's been intense, these battles towards the front, even towards the midfield as well. It's been a great round of fixed Indy Australia, and we still have a little bit to go.
Yeah, there's a few laps to go, 6 laps to go, and we got battles all up and down, like you say. Hinds is slowly pulling away from Edmonds a little bit. He's 1.2 is the gap at the moment, so he's slowly starting to put a few tenths on him. But I think the real close one here is that battle for third between O'Brien, Walker and Broad, and I wouldn't count out Broad even if he's in the back position. The last place you want to be is Dylan Walker, I think, in the middle of that sandwich. He's only got 2 push-to-passes left. I think his tyres are maybe some of the older ones out of the 3. I can't quite remember, but being in the middle of the pack, in the middle of a 3-way battle is probably one of the worst places to be in terms of track position, I think, because you've got to obviously drive in your mirrors a bit and keep the guy behind you, but you're also trying to make a move on the guy in front. So, you know what they say, men can't multitask. So he's down to his last push to pass now. He's using one more down the back straight here. Let's see what happens now.
Indeed we will. Walker actually on a very similar strat to O'Brien and Broad. They all pitted around the same time. Broad actually has the oldest tyres in this group, but he's only a lap older than O'Brien and Walker. And he's certainly showing that he's got a lot of pace under him. He doesn't want to get into his Drop Bear Motorsport teammate, but he wants to try and advance forward. Brody Shepherd back up into the top 10 and using push to pass. Harry Lawrence has worked his way back up to 9th, and he's still got 6 push to passes remaining. So keep an eye out there for Lawrence, see if he can make up any more time, but he's got quite a gap ahead to Chris Ireland, who, remember, still has a 5-second time penalty hanging over his head. So 4 laps to go for these guys now. Thomas Hinds, the leader on push to pass. Doesn't seem like there's much movement in this battle at the moment. I think all of the drivers are now dealing with the alternate compound tyres. Now, having gone past their optimum grip, they are starting to struggle to put the power down.
Yeah, it's going to come down to who looked after him at the start of the stint now. Is it going to pay you back? We're seeing a lot of purple arrows on the timing sheet now. The boys are all getting their push to pass going. 4 laps to go. There's only maybe 8 opportunities to make passes between those 4 laps, you know, depending on if you can get closer or not, obviously. But Margetts and Jones still really close to each other, both on the push to pass as well. But it looks like Margetts has pulled away a little bit, and he'll be adding a few points to his total season tally. Edmonds not quite on pace with Hinds at the moment, and I think Hinds is going to be quite happy with that, obviously. Just slowly starting to pull away, a tenth at a time.
Yep, here's Ireland in 8th place. He's not too far behind Ryan Jones, and Harry Lawrence will be 9 seconds behind him. So when Ireland crosses the line, he should still be safe for 8th place when he inevitably gets that time penalty added to his race time. Meanwhile, both Edmonds and Hinds on push to pass. Hinds has 1 more in hand here, but the gap is starting to come down again. Daniel Edmonds on 1 final push to the end of the race. You know what I think he was doing? He was slower than Hinds for a period. Maybe he was looking after those alternates so he has more to fight with on the last lap.
And if that's the case and he can pull that off, that is absolute genius. And we've seen a change in the order. Broad and Walker exchanging positions. Walker, I'm not sure what's happened there. He's sort of dropped off pace a little bit. Tyson Broad has had a great recovery drive. We saw him falling down the order really early on in the race, but he's clawed his way back up into P4 and taken that off Dylan Walker, and he's still got the push to pass advantage as well.
Yeah, he has. Only 1 push to pass remaining for Walker and for O'Brien. Broad still has 2 in hand. He could use them once a lap in the final couple of laps and be fully clear for the rest of the race, however many hundreds of meters it is. But Broad up into 4th. Can he catch up to Michael O'Brien? I mean, it's a big ask, but Broad certainly has the pace to do it. O'Brien has been running a little bit faster, though, so got to take care. Daniel Edmonds will use his second last push to pass here, trying to catch up to Thomas Hinds. The gap is still remaining at about 1.5, 1.6. Edmonds is just throwing everything he can at Hinds right now, but Hinds is completely unrattled.
Yeah, I think he's doing a fantastic job keeping it consistent and just trying to keep Edmonds at bay. I think that a second and a half is a great gap to have. Just keeps you on your toes and keep you concentrating, but he has not wavered one little bit tonight. Sorry. Reese and Ryan still activating their push to passes behind each other, but Margetts has put a bit of a gap between them now. And speaking of push to pass as well, Dylan Walker's used his final one, so he is all out of those. Obviously, can't take him next week, so you might as well use him tonight.
Indeed, white flag is out. Thomas Hinz has one more circuit of the Hockenheimring to complete, and he holds on to the lead by nearly 2 seconds over Reese Margetts and over Daniel Edmonds. My apologies. And both still have at least one push to pass in hand. This is going to be Edmonds' last chance here to gain something on Thomas Hinz, but Hinsey will use that final push to pass there. Edmonds will use it too. Hinz still has one in hand. He'll probably use it on the run out of the hairpin just to gain some extra time. We'll have to wait and see on that. It's all down to who can make the least mistakes here at the Hockenheimring. And both Hinz and Edmonds have been head and shoulders above the rest of the field in terms of that. O'Brien, meanwhile, one push to pass remaining. Tyson Broad, looks like still has one in hand too. O'Brien has just used his last, and that's a problem for him in the hairpin. He'll have lost a couple of tenths there. Broad might have a run at him here on the final lap. Everyone is using their push to pass here, trying to just bleed it out, burn it off, need to use that extra pace. But up the front, that is no trouble for Thomas Hinz. He has started from pole position. He has led the race pretty much all the way through. And what a fantastic run it has been for Thomas Hinz. Another win in the books here in Fixed Indy Australia. Good job to Daniel Edmonds to keep him honest. Oh,
yeah,
Broad.
Broad's gone deep there. I'm not sure exactly what's happened there, if he's lost the spot or not, but he got very sandy coming into the... Oh, and he's off again. I hope he hasn't got a slowdown there because he'll need to serve that. But has he got the slowdown off the... Oh, no. He got the slowdown over the back on the final corner, crossing that sausage curve. And Dylan Walker says, thanks very much. I'll have that. They had such a great battle. It's a shame to see that happen to Tyson on the very last lap. He's obviously, I'd like to see a replay of that, but that's not ideal.
Certainly not. Oh, he was just in too deep.
Driving in his mirrors, I think perhaps, he's worried about the car behind. He didn't lose the position in the initial phase of that, but then, crossing that curve there, he's got to slow down. Of course, in iRacing, if you finish a race with a slowdown, you get some crazy penalty, like 40 seconds or something. So he's obviously done the smart thing and just served it before he's crossed the line. But he'll be kicking himself, Reese.
Yeah, he certainly will. Thomas Hinz, meanwhile, will be absolutely wrapped with this result. Certainly one of his finest performances I've ever seen. He played the tyre game perfectly. He got the overcut on the primary compound and also overcut on the alternate and fended off the relentless attack from Daniel Edmonds and comes home with maximum points and the championship lead over Edmonds. With drop rounds still applied. This is going to be quite the end to the season when we get around to it. Thomas Hinz, big congratulations to him, and the burnout is complete. Well, we'll go through our results and then we'll have a chat to the drivers. Hinz ultimately 1.7 was the gap back to Daniel Edmonds. O'Brien will get onto the podium. Congratulations there. Dylan Walker, well, he managed to nab that position off Tyson Broad on the run to the line. Broad with a slowdown. Reese Margetts is going to finish in P6 ahead of Ryan Jones. Chris Ireland will finish ahead of Harry Lawrence, even with the 5-second time penalty. Brodie Shepherd will round out the top 10.
Yeah, well done from all the drivers in the top 10 there. Dwayne Burns finishing a P11 just outside the top 10. We saw him get into a bit of action here and there. Same as Atsushi Yasufuni. He got into a lot of action as well, actually, which was really good to see. Dean Jacobson for Race on Oz, lap down in 13th with Mark Cochran as well. Pete Baxter in that beautiful flame livery with his teammate and potentially relative, unless that's a crazy coincidence. Robbie Baxter in P15 and 16. Greg Patrick and Jay Stern, unfortunately, DNFing. Greg, we saw get back out on the track and have a go at it, but decided ultimately to park it. But Reese, that was a bloody good race.
Yeah, certainly was. The reduced field certainly didn't mean much for that. So, fantastic job from all the drivers to give us a great finish. We'll talk to Thomas Hinz first, our race winner. That looked like a perfect round from you, Hinsey. Playing the tyre game really well and going for the overcut. That's what really helped you out there.
I should really just fake it and be like, it all went exactly to plan. That I planned that whole thing with everything. But in all honesty, I thought I put the second set as primary, but I guess I changed it to alternate and didn't realize, and then changed it over, and suddenly I had alternate tires on, and I was like, well, that's interesting. So that wasn't exactly the plan, but then again, I had seen Chris and Ryan had managed to make theirs not do too bad in the first stint, so I thought this might actually work okay, and I figured as long as I sort of made them last long enough and kept the gap at about that 3-second mark, which is roughly where I was when I came out. If I had it about there when I came in, then it was a net neutral or gain even. So it kind of worked out. It wasn't exactly the plan, but it worked out, so that's good. And then just got him in the end and managed to get the fastest lap. Glad I defended from Dan. Not gonna lie, I was kind of going for the lead every lap thing there after the last stop, not gonna lie. So just to sort of complete it, but it was a lot of fun, really good. Yeah, happy with that, because I was a bit worried in practice, but I guess everyone was doing push to pass laps because I thought I was in trouble, but actual quali came around, it was fine. So it all worked out really well.
Yeah, it's the last road course round of the season, and we go to Auto Club for the next round of the series. You looking forward to that as much as we are?
Yeah, I mean, it should definitely be entertaining. I don't know if I'm looking forward to it as much as you guys, because for me it's just going to be massive stress, but yeah, it certainly will be entertaining. I mean, as we've said before, it's Auto Club, it's just going to be a massive pack, and yeah, who knows, literally anyone could win, like anybody. So it's just going to be similar to Texas, but obviously it's even more just flat out pack racing the whole way. So yeah, just try and keep it clean, and then just try and be there at the end to hopefully get a good result. If I can just finish and get a decent result, then I'll take that from that one, because it really could be anybody's game. So we'll see.
We will indeed. Anyone you'd like to thank for your perfect victory today, Hinsey?
Well, I'd like, obviously, Henry and Co. At HR, always great support, and got the car looking fantastic, which I'm loving that livery. Love revving that thing. It looks so good. Like every livery Henry does, it's always just absolutely spectacular. So good to be able to rep them, and all the Jinx Shifters and all the guys, right, to all the sponsors. Good to be able to rep them well, looking good. And yeah, obviously big thanks to Dan and everyone at AOG for running this series, and the series they do. They do a very good job, and just big thanks to them for making this possible, and big thanks to you guys for putting on a great show as well.
Thomas Hinz there, winner of round 7 of Fixed Indy Australia. Next up, P2, Daniel Edmonds. Well, Daniel, you were leading the championship by 1 point coming into this round, and you may have finished behind Hinsey, but you certainly kept him honest.
Yeah, I tried my best. I think I really didn't do the best strategy in that one, but almost got him on the undercut, but maybe looking just a little bit of speed, and yeah, that's all it takes.
Yeah, how did you find the track? Because this isn't a typical circuit for IndyCar, and I noticed a lot of drivers having trouble with the turn 1 exit curb. It looked very bouncy out there.
Yeah, it is a little bit more in this car than some other cars you would usually race here, but for me personally, I really like Hockenheim, so yeah, it was fun to drive. A bit slippery with the heat and a bit of lack of downforce, but yeah, it was a little bit different to what I tested earlier in the week, so made it a bit more difficult. But yeah, it was really fun. I always like racing at this track, so yeah.
Do you like racing at Auto Club? That's the next round. We don't have any more road courses for the rest of the season.
I think I say this every time we talk about an oval, but I bought it a few weeks ago and I've not turned a lap yet, so the last 2 races it's been okay, so maybe we'll have another good oval, and yeah, to me relying on ovals is probably not what I expected in this championship, but yeah, we'll do our best and have a lot of fun, and maybe our red gloves will give us some luck at Auto Club.
Yeah, indeed. Well, P2 finish. The floor is yours, Daniel. Anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, so just a big thanks to everyone in simrings.com DPR. It's always great fun racing with the boys. So yeah, thanks to everyone in the team. And thanks to our sponsors, simrigs.com, Southwell Lifts and Hoists, and Max Mechanical and MP Designs.
Daniel Edmonds finishing second here tonight. And back on the podium once again is Michael O'Brien. That was a very intense race from your perspective, Michael. You were right in it.
Yeah, I tried to hang on to those guys at the front early on, but pretty quickly became apparent that was not my race. But yeah, with Dylan and Chris and Tyson out of nowhere at the end, that was fun.
Certainly was. You were one of the drivers who went for the primary compound in both of the initial stints. Was it just a case of saving the softs up right for the very end because of the track temperature? Because it was pretty warm out there.
Yeah, well, in practice the reds were like hitting a pretty hard cliff about 5 laps in, and the forecast said the track was going to get hotter over the race, but it dropped a few degrees, and I think that helped the reds just hang on that bit more and the rubber on track.
Well, this third place finish is going to grant you, I believe, 4th position in the championship coming out of this round. So it's crunch time with 2 ovals to round out the season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going for the win in the championship, but it'd be fun to stay in the top 5 at least. The ovals will be, the guys up front could crash out of both ovals, and who knows what'll happen if that happens. So.
Yeah, indeed. It'll certainly be an interesting conclusion to the season. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Michael. Anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Cheers. My teammate Tyler Graff, he made a nice slick new paint, which is pretty cool. So, and you guys and AOG as well.
Yeah, indeed. Very striking livery on that MadWorks Dallara IR-18. That's Michael O'Brien there. Concluding the action for tonight. These are the standings, Dean, as they come out of this round. Thomas Hinz ahead of Daniel Edmonds by 13 points. Tim Vaughan, Reese Margetts, and Michael O'Brien will round out the top 5 in the championship. So my calculations were a little bit off when I was talking to Michael, but still, this is a great situation to be in coming into Auto Club and Indianapolis to round out the season.
Yeah, there's a couple of little groupings there where the points are really close. Like you said, Hinsey just grabbed plenty of points today, which has catapulted him up ahead a bit further. Margetts, 174 points. He's 2 in front of Michael O'Brien now. We were talking about it earlier with him and Jonesy fighting each other. The points were definitely going to come in handy. A couple of the names in the top 10 weren't in the race tonight, so they'll be using their drop around and potentially gaining some spots back when we hit Auto Club next week.
Indeed. Auto Club will be the next round of the season in 2 weeks' time, the 28th of May. Make sure to mark that down in your calendar. First of 2 oval rounds to finish Season 2 off. And of course, later on, we will have the AOG Indy 500 to conclude Fixed Indy Australia. What a fantastic season it has been. What a fantastic season it is still to be. Thanks so much for joining us here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or Kick, whichever platform you're coming from. We appreciate you dropping a view in here to SimSpeed TV. I'm Reese Gardner, Dean Hunt with me in the comms box, and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes. We'll see you next time.